Starting a company is easy. Growing a company is harder. But selling your company? That's a whole different story. In the Big Exit Show, we lift the curtain of secrecy around selling businesses by learning from ambitious and successful founders who have been on this roller coaster. Our hosts, venture capital investors Johan van Mil, the founding and managing partner of Peak, and Anke Hauskes, the founding and managing partner of NP Hard, will help you on this exciting journey.
Hi, Johan. So we just finished the conversation with Dewi, who after 12 years sold the company to ACA, another IT company in Belgium. Interesting story, because they started as a husband-wife company, then separated. She took over the CEO role, and then really did an amazing job in finding the right acquisition partner. Another spin of the story that at least I have not learned about. So many insights for me. What do you think?
Yeah, no, agree. Especially, let's say, that situation, right, with the relationship. I think he was also very transparent on that. And we see it a lot, right, that husband and wife start a company, right? And that's, for us as investors, it's a big risk. So I think it's interesting to hear. And also, I think the space that they were attacking at that time, right, because it was an app development company. It's also not a very big company. They were, when they were sold, only 25 employees. And at that time, you're not really big. And then at that time, it's also key. What I liked a lot, what she shared, is finding the right partner for that. Because I think what she also said is, if you want to sell your company, how do you assess the company which is buying you? Because, of course, your staff and your company will be integrated or not integrated in that company. And I think that match should be really great. So I think it's great what she shares also on that end. And also, let's say, the struggle that she had, because in between she was, of course, bought by another company. And also how she handled that process herself, right? And that's, I think, very impressive, because running a company, not a sizable company on the one hand, and secondly, convince your existing shareholders and, of course, sell your company to a new, let's say, buyer at the same time. So I think really impressive how she shared that and how she realized that exit also. So great insights.
Yeah, let's dive in.
And today we'll speak with Dewi van de Vyver from Flowpilots, from Bornem, also master in communication at the University of Antwerp, where I also studied, by the way. And she also took a management course at the Vyver School of Business. She went to work with Prime Minister at that time, Guy Verhofstadt, and led the young VLD National. Afterwards, she worked at the Ghent University, still as a communication and project manager at Fortis, Venturing, and Niskaya, among others. In 2011, she co-founded Flowpilots and became its CEO in 2018. In September 2022, she stepped down, and she's now the founder of Ethics, a platform for design of experiments. Welcome, Dewi.
Thank you, Al. Thank you.
Yeah, shall we start with the beginning? Because 2011 is when you co-founded the company, which is 12 years from now. And later you stepped over to be the CEO. Shall we start with the beginning of how the team came together and you came up with the idea?
The start.
Yes, absolutely. I think the thing was that when I met my my ex-husband in 2006, there was actually from the beginning the idea. I had the common understanding that we did not like the way computer programs were designed, that often they were very technical and not very user-friendly, and that most of the time they were like, it was like, yeah, the engineers just like thought of something and then they just coded it, and you just as a user had to try to find your way into their mind. And so at a certain point, yeah, a lot of things came together. I did in evening school a bachelor in graphical design to understand better how you would design things and how you like make things better from a user perspective. And he got more questions also about building applications for iPad and for phones. As a consultant. And so at a certain point, we met two developers who were also like having a small company where they were also searching for new projects. And so we worked with them together on a big project for a pharmaceutical company to make an application for them. And actually from that point, their Flowpilots originated because all the interests of all the different people came together. And also the market demanded for more mobile applications. And so our first baseline was immediately that we need a mobile application is not a mobile strategy, because wanting just like a computer program to be in or to, just to have it just for the mere sake of being able to say that you have a mobile application was not something that we confined in. And that was how we found it. That's how we started. And that's the line that we kept all the years that came afterwards.
Cool. And how is it to start? Because you mentioned, right, that you started with your husband. How is it like starting a company with your husband also? Somebody else?
Yeah, it was easier than starting a relationship.
I can imagine, but how do you do that? Because I can imagine, right? It's also hard, right? If you have a relationship also together and probably run a household and also have it at your business, right? How do you manage that? How do you?
Yeah, that's the thing that the difficult part was indeed the household and the fact that we had two little children and building a house at the same moment. But like the business itself, because we knew where we wanted to go and why we founded it. It kind of, how you say, okay, it was difficult in the sense that we still needed to find the customers and to of course like find money sometimes, and customers did not always pay. And so that part was definitely searching, but it was indeed more I think the combination made it very hard, because one of us, and most of the time, of course, it was me in the beginning, had to sacrifice working time for attending to the family, and that did raise conflict. Because I was ambitious too, and I also wanted to do things, and sometimes time was scarce. So therefore, the fun, the joke that it was more difficult to have the business. Yeah.
I can imagine. And at the time that you started, right? Let's say app development was really kicking off at that time. A lot of companies, let's say, throughout Europe, kicked off at that time. What was, let's say, from your end, let's say, differentiation and the real thing that you did different compared to, let's say, the other app development companies, which you saw a lot of popping up at that time?
Well, definitely, as I said, the fact that we, from the beginning, were very focused on the mobile strategy, the strategy that was behind the mobile application. So we kept away from developing games. Of course, we did some, but actually that was really the minority of it. Most of the time, it were really business applications where we really improved the way of working. We immediately also thought of how would it be integrated, change management, talk to IT to understand how it would be organized within the enterprise application landscape. And that was really new at that time, because now if you would talk to enterprises, everybody has, of course, like an enterprise architecture. But at the time in 2011 and 12 and 13, when we talked about those things, that was still like, if we talk to IT and ask, like, how are we going to be integrated and, maintained and having service contracts and those things. It was really regarded novel and something that a lot of companies were not taking into account yet. That also with applications, you have to think ahead and think like, when will you need like a refactoring, or you will need to have, of course, security, one-factor authentication, two-factor authentication, like, when do you switch to more secure measurements? And that were things that we took into account from the beginning that made us it often difficult, of course, in sales conversations, because we were like more expensive. But in the end, the ones that did work with us always saw the benefit of having a complete price instead of like parts a partial price and then had to pay up later on. And I think in the what is happening today with artificial intelligence is a little bit, I feel the same than with the mobile applications at the time, is that everybody wants to start it. They all think that it's going to, raise efficiency and that they can fire a lot of people because AI is going to take over a lot of jobs. But one forgets that actually the jobs that will be replaced will go away, will be replaced by other kind of profiles, because just like mobile applications needed to be updated and secured and to be checked whether they were still working properly, you will have to do the same with artificial intelligence systems to see whether they're still working properly and being maintained and not being hacked, or still giving output that you desire. And that was what we did differently.
During that time, like, what was your ideal customer profile, and did they change over the years because the types of companies also changed?
Actually, our ideal customer profile did not change over the years. It is more the rigidity in which we search for that ideal customer changed. Like in the beginning, you're still sometimes you do just need the project, and you kind of like still take up on a project where even if you think like maybe it's not like in our DNA, or but it looks easy to do, so we will do it, and it always in the end bite us in the ass, because if you work for customers that do not fit your culture and do not fit your ICP, that means that you always have to wiggle yourself into 1,000 turns or something. That was like a literal relation of a Dutch saying, but and that's the thing, if you have to try to fit into a box that's not yours, that's very difficult. It always costs you money, it costs you energy, your team's not happy, you're not happy, customer's not happy. So our ICP from the beginning were big corporations with a decent IT structure, who had also an enterprise architecture, and who understood the importance to have a partner like us that also took into account the strategy of the company and also took into account the change management. We talked with the people that actually had to use the application, and also looked really like how were they going to implement the application that we were building throughout their work stream throughout the day. Like when is the point that you have to think about picking up the application and using it, and where in your chain of thoughts you would actually have to remember it. And those are it looks, if I explain it, it looks it seems obvious, but it isn't if you're starting to work on something. And now, for instance, with ethics, that's also something that is a very peculiar problem, to find out when does your user need to think of you and your application to be able to use it, and how is it going to be integrated into their workflow.
And I can understand why, because you have, let's say, a business model where you're not building, let's say, direct software, but you're building indeed apps, and you help them with strategy. It's more a consulting business model. It's also, I think, the reason why my colleague who prepared the exit valuation couldn't find anything on funding, because probably you didn't raise anything, or not, let's say, not a specific big amount. You had a commercial job before also. You started together with two founders. How did you especially finance at early stage of the company, right? Because then in search for clients, as you mentioned already, it's what I learned also myself as an entrepreneur, it's the hardest phase, right? To start kicking off your company. How did you fund that early start of the company? Also for our listeners to hear how it's working.
Yeah, with savings. That was painful, but it was in the beginning with savings and with loans. That was hard, and actually something to try to, especially the loans, to avoid as much as possible, because you pay the interest as well. And I think at Flowpilots, the problem was not that we didn't have customers. The problem was the timing that the customers paid. And so at a certain point, I did went to talk to our customers, a couple of the big ones, to say like, okay, listen up, this is not going to, we're not a bank for you. We're a small company, and it's actually not fair that you're a big corporation and that you're taking this kind of like extended loans on us and paying on really long terms, because we had to fund actually that timing that they were not paying. So that are things that you know, in the beginning, you're happy that you have a customer, and at a certain point you realize this customer is a very good customer, but also on the other hand, like a problem customer when they really pay late because you're taking the burden. And so negotiating those things is very important as a founder, and to really stick to your time of payment, and making sure you have revenue coming in at a decent pace. But that was painful.
To double click on that, so and to put it in a timeline, and maybe you have to like really think deep, because it has been a while. But for the listeners, can you basically put it in different stages? So when you started in 2011 with like money from the bank or from your like savings, to what was the moment that you actually started making profit, to the moment that you started expanding the team, to know like, was it like months, years, in order to like, wow, we've got a scalable business, money flowing in, we're on a good track?
The problem was not that we didn't have customers. So actually from the beginning, we have never like had a problem with being profitable. The amount of being profitable, that's something else, but we never had a problem with profit. We had a problem with cash flow, and that's also painful, because at certain points, if you're like minus 300,000 euros because loans are going, that like a big your customer like still need to have you have big invoices coming in, that they're coming, but you still have to pay the wages, and then there's like holiday wages, and then there's cars, and then there's the office, and it goes down, and but you're not seeing the up. That's the point where it's painful. But we had customers from the beginning, and we grew also from the beginning. I think we were 1 year in, not even 1 year, I think 6 months, when we had our first employee. And then we did grow actually like rather steady with 3 people a year. Yes, that will be And we also were a learning company, so we also had a lot of interns. That was also a specific strategy, because we like to have those interns, because they brought them from the university or from the college like new languages, new methodologies. They then saw new ways of coding, or new programs, for instance, in which they could check code. Because now of course everybody knows Docker, and everybody knows how you can like check your code with certain programs, but in the beginning it wasn't there, and so it was always nice to have interns that came from school and then brought in new ideas and new methodologies.
The growth phase.
And what is the moment that because you started as a COO, right, as a co-founder, and first a COO role, and at a certain point you also took over that CEO role. When was that in time, and what was the reason for you also to take over that role?
Yes, so the thing is that I don't mind to play a second role, as long as I have the feeling that the way things are going is good. But at a certain point, I felt like the ideas and the way we're heading forward kind of like came to a point where there was not that much energy anymore in my co-founders, and I was at that point also already divorced. And so we had a conversation amongst each other. At that point, there was already a co-founder that was already gone in 2017. And so we had the conversation, like, what is everybody's ambition? What does everybody want to do? How you want to proceed? And then, I still had energy, and I still had a lot of ideas where I wanted to go, and then ideas for the company to let it grow, and ideas also for more marketing campaigns, and also new customers, what kind of customers I wanted to look at. And that's how we actually had that conversation. And then in the end, I stayed, and the last two co-founders left the company. And that's it. That's how
And at that time, and perhaps good for the listeners to understand also, because I think in 2017 the company has been taken over or had another, let's say, majority shareholder. I know the situation there by Sipal Schouwbroek, right?
Yes, indeed. Yes. And that was already a point where energy was where we two things. So first of all, like, you felt that with the co-founders, there was like we were at that point 6 years in. And then that's the point where I also got divorced. And so two co-founders that separate was also, of course, not so easy for the company. And you have that question, like, where are we going? What are we going to do? And at that time, the vision of to partner with Sipal Schouwbroek was a choice from the perspective that we already built a lot of applications for governments. As you can see, like, we knew that government would digitalize more and more. And that applications would become something that would become a part of the enterprise architecture also of governments, and that we would have mobile applications to help you as a citizen to manage your documents. And so that's the link with Sipal Schouwbroek. And that indeed gave already the opportunity for one of the founders to already exit, and for the others to stay a little bit longer and to help also to do the transition. That's the reason indeed why we went with Sipal Schouwbroek, because you also want to. It was also a future for the company that we saw that we could expand on.
And maybe between the 2018 and 2022, that's when you left the company, right? Was it also when you gave up 100% of your ownership, or what happened in between these few years when you took over the CEO role?
Yeah, so in 2018, then the thing was that I made a plan together with Sipal Schouwbroek, and we looked ahead, like, what would we still want to do? We wanted to grow, of course, and also check whether we could expand on those government applications. That was definitely a part, but that went very slow. That was a thing that I really underestimated. Yeah, like, governments don't really move forward a lot. We did a new exercise at the company as well. So together with my collaborators, we really did the exercise. Okay, but actually, who are we? What do we like to work for? Like, do that exercise again on ICP. I told you before, like, that we already had our customer, but to do that exercise again with the whole company was very important to really find our DNA. And what we saw was that again, that part with the big companies that had those enterprise architecture, that really, like, those working applications inside big companies where we could really make a difference for collaborators, how they did their work was a very important aspect of who we were. So that also made us decide to cut some other customers where we had more what I would call frivolous applications that were not really serving that cause where our company, where my coworkers love to work for. And so we gradually made that shift. Then unfortunately, of course, 2020 we had COVID, but we had so much work. We didn't know what to do first. And we also started doing more campaigns. I had the opportunity to also be elected ICT Woman of the Year in Belgium. And that also gave a nice extra exposure to the company as well, to digitalization. And we pushed even more on the importance of change management when you do digitalization projects within your company. So it did give me the opportunity to talk even more about the importance of that change management.
And then the story was also so much bigger, I think, than the actual product that your company delivered.
Yes, indeed.
Almost like being a spokesperson. Yeah.
Yeah, and it did. That's what grew. That was what I did from 2018 to also try to expand on that story. Just not just to be like a mobile application developer, but really let companies see that digitalization has a big impact on the whole organization, and that it's not just something from IT, but it's something that should be a part of the whole management, that the CEO and the CFO, and so they also have to be involved, of course, not on the technical aspect, but understand in how many ways like a digitalization trajectory really impacts the company on a financial level, HR level, organization level. And so that were things that we always took into account from the beginning, was also something that we really advocated for.
And what's the moment, Dewi, that you decided that, let's say, Sipal was not the right mother company or shareholder anymore, and that you want to go for another path? Can you tell a little bit how that went?
Yeah. So indeed, as I mentioned, having those government applications went way slower than we actually anticipated, and of course that was a link between our two companies in the end. That was the initial idea. They bought a small service company that could help them to be more innovative and more young as well as a company towards new customers. But we felt that to really make that shift, it would take us another couple of years. And at the same time, it was also becoming more and more difficult to, on the one hand, have customers that were big corporations, and having then that shareholder that was still like in government applications. And then they asked like, yeah, but aren't you like in government applications? Why are you still like participating in tenders for like corporations? And so the story started to become more and more difficult. And at a certain point, you kind of make the balance. And that's what I did in the end of 2021. I kind of sit down and took a sheet of paper and wrote down like, okay, if this is who we are as a company, if this is what the mother company is, if this is where I want to go, if this is where my coworkers want to go, this is also you have to understand that at that point, my colleagues, were also like grown up with me, in that company, and so they also had like ideas on where they wanted to grow to, and where they also wanted to know, like, what's my future inside this company? Are we going to grow with more people? Will I be able to maybe like be team leader and stuff like that? But of course, if you cannot grow, then there's no team to lead. And so there were things that all these questions and challenges that lay there. And so I kind of like made some plans and thought about like what would be the best way forward, and went to talk with a lot of people. I'm still grateful for everybody that spent the time to listen to me and to answer my questions in the beginning of 2022. And then at a certain point, I went to talk to the board and said like, okay, look, these are all the options that I have looked into. This is the situation. This is where we are today. And I think that the best way forward is to actually sell us off again to a company where there are these where we have these
Strategies, you mean?
yeah, no, I wanted to say the conditions, where the conditions are there to let this team also grow, where my colleagues could also expand their knowledge, expand their expertise, maybe become team leader and stuff like that. And and so of course, because I already prepared very thoroughly, the decision was fast. Was made very fast. And that's the point where I started also. I also had in my head, of course, the companies that I thought were going to be interesting to talk to. And that's of which I knew that also were thinking of expanding towards Antwerp. And so I went to talk to them. And then you first very silently, just to try to understand whether they would be interested or not. And then at a certain point, you really start with data room and official invitations, and off you go.
This expression. Oh,
sorry, Anke.
Sorry.
One question on that. One last question. And you did that process, if I understand correctly, fully yourself, right? So drafting the paper, had the idea, convincing your board, but also reaching out to the list of companies where you felt there would be a match, right? If I understand correctly.
Yes, I did. Yeah.
Okay. Wow.
Love that. I thought it was, yeah. Yeah.
And when you did that process, did you inform the team, or was it something that you executed being in a silo?
Gradually. So the initial idea I did by myself, but that was because I really also wanted to make sure that I had the opportunity to also, I have a broad network and had the opportunity to talk to a lot of my colleague CEOs to also have a sounding board and to listen to my own thoughts and get very critical and challenging questions back. So that was very good that I had that process already done, before you go to your team, because you don't want at points like that, you don't want to have those questions for that you're still trying to answer yourself. You don't want to do that with your team. So my team did get all the options that I the small management team did get all the options that I thought of, and I did ask their opinion with regards to that, and we did talk that through. But they also are, because the exercise was done thoroughly for them, it was also rather clear what was the best way forward, and then I gave them time to get used to the idea, because that was important as well. Then they were involved in talking to the board, so I did not do that alone. That was something we did together, because I thought it was very important that the board understood that it was a joint decision and it was not just like me going solo slim. And they were involved, my management team, in every conversation that we had with companies, because they were going to go forward with the company and I was not, because that was something I explained immediately from the beginning, that I would not join the handover. I saw it as an opportunity after after 11 years to be free again. And so I found it very important that they also liked the company that they would be sold off to, and that they would also see that the culture and agreements that have been made, that they were done in a correct way.
Yeah.
And then afterwards,
and that process which you oh, sorry.
No.
Please, Dewi.
No. I wanted to say, then gradually we did inform then the bigger team in smaller steps.
Yeah, I can imagine that you did it that way, and especially because you, as you mentioned, right, you ran that process fully yourself, and also with the caveat, right, that you were selling a company which you were leaving also, right? So I can understand it's a very delicate thing. How did you handle that? Also with the talks, how many companies did you approach, and how did you frame that towards the person that you were speaking to? That you were indeed the CEO, but selling the company where you would be leaving, etc. How did you frame that message also to potential buyers?
The thing is that when I approached the different companies, that I first had, of course, like a long list, and then made a short list, and then with that short list, I did at that point already consult the team and also the board. They were also involved in long versus short list, and then with the shortlist first, before we actually really emailed them formally, I already had some small conversations, coffees, lunches, to understand whether it would make sense to send them the email or not. You don't actually want to send an email to a company that actually does not know you. Especially for us, it was would not have been a good case. You wanted them to already know you, and it's about being honest. You just tell them, okay, and again, most of the times for me, I know the sector, so I knew all my competition companies as well. I knew their challenges as well, so it's not that you contact them out of the blue or don't know why they would be interested in buying you. So that's also interesting to kind of you have the narrative, that they're searching maybe for expanding, as I said, to Antwerp, or they're searching for a certain kind of profiles, or they're searching for a new entry into a new market that they do not have yet. So that are the things that you take into account into those conversations. And there's never two CEOs on a boat, telling them immediately that I would not be joining made it actually easier, because they would not have to fill in my position. And that was the narrative.
Okay.
And now we're interested, obviously, in for how much you sold the company for. And for that, we asked Johan's colleague to do the math. So he, let's bring that in. And then we're asking you to say if it's higher, lower, or exactly the amount. And up to you how much else you want to reveal.
Hi Dewi. First off, congrats on your exit to ACA Group. As usual on the Big Exit Show, the exact exit valuation for the acquisition of Flowpilots was not publicly disclosed. Based on typical industry valuations and the information available online, I came up with an estimate. Flowpilots, a company specializing in mobile applications and digital transformation tools, had 25 employees at the time of acquisition. Such companies in the IT consulting and software development sector are often valued based on a multiple of the annual revenues, or EBITDA. PitchBook gives a typical multiple range for small to medium-sized IT firms between 1.5 to 3 times their annual revenues, or 5 to 8 times their EBITDA. Given its niche and its strategic fit to ACA Group's expansion plans, it is reasonable to assume a valuation at the higher end of this range. A news article from the Tijd suggests an annual revenue of Flowpilots of 2.8 million. A valuation multiple of 3 would suggest an exit valuation of 8.4 million. Over to you, Dewi. Was the exit valuation of Flowpilots 8.4 million?
It was lower.
Lower. Anything else that you would like to comment on, or what was wrong in the valuation? You don't have to name the exact number, but
I think the multiple was wrong.
The multiple was wrong.
Yeah.
That's always good to hear.
Yes. Indeed.
And maybe, so after, can you take us through the moment that you signed the paperwork and what happened afterwards? Because I heard you just saying you wanted something about freedom. You wanted to be free, but now you're running a new company again. So that was a very short period. So can you tell us about maybe that moment and then what happened after?
Yes, the moment itself is of course very emotional. I say what happened afterwards was that the transition period that I had foreseen versus what was then then in the end agreed with the new company was was shorter. The thing was that I did not anticipate that. There was the not so much that it was a surprise or something, but if you're doing such a thing, so as I said, I was already busy with it in 2021, thinking, informing customers, stuff like that. So informing potential buyers and stuff like that. So I did not really take into account the future. Until then, the idea was still that there would still be a significant transition period, but in the end, it was decided, as I said, to make it shorter, which was no problem as such. But it did confront me all of a sudden with the fact that I did not really think about what I was going to do afterwards, and then.
And after 10 years or 12 years building the company, so it's
it's
a big change.
And what happened was a slight panic. Instead of taking the time to it would have been better if I would have had already a plan for myself. So I had a plan for the company, but not for myself, and that was something I would definitely recommend for maybe listeners to this podcast that might be thinking about the same thing, is to really have a plan for themselves as well, and either to be really sure to maybe take a break for 3 months or something, or to first search for something that they want to start doing afterwards and then take the break or something. But you have to have a plan. And because if you don't have a plan, it's really for me at least, it felt so unreal to suddenly not have that amount of emails anymore, not so many things to attend to. And you would say okay, but didn't you then take the time off and go on holiday? Yeah, but on the other hand, it does plays in your head as well. Yeah, but yeah, if I'm back from holiday, what am I going to do then? And so I did some interesting consultancy, and then the reason with the FX is a little bit the same. So I was contacted to do help the team as an entrepreneur in residence, to help them spin out of the university, and in that process, I decided to jump with them and found a company, and here we are 2 years later.
Again, starting all over.
Yes, yeah, that's but again, maybe I would have done it all the same, but I think it would have been I think it would have been better to have the idea before you really end. It would have been better for me to have that plan before I actually stopped at Flowpilots, because that's the thing in my head. I was still going to be involved until the end of 2022. So and then it ended in the beginning of October, and so those So the void of the 2 months was, it was not calculated. I cannot. Maybe for some people it's easier, to be more okay, than the 2 months off start earlier. But for me, it was very difficult.
And I don't know how it is in Belgium, and I'm thinking here in the Netherlands, but is there some sort of a peer group or support group or a group of other founders, CEOs that come together quite regularly to talk about what it is to exit your company? How does life look like after the exit? Would have that helped you, I guess, in that process of letting go, basically your baby, and also hand over the employees? Would that have been helpful during that time?
I did not have that formal organized, but I did have my network of co-CEOs or colleague CEOs that I could contact if I needed to. So the problem was not letting go of my baby. You have already done that process. When you start thinking about those things in 2021, by the time you sell the company, you have said your goodbyes. You have you have already organized everything, and we did a very good job. And I'm still very proud of my team and the way we handled it. But this was like a textbook. The company that we were sold off to got a list of all employees, we did interviews with everybody to ask for their ambitions. So the company also knew where everybody was in their mindset, where they wanted to grow to, what were still worries, fears, ambitions, everything. So if you are HR in a company that acquires a company and you get that list, it's gold, because you can immediately start off. You don't have to start worrying or questioning all these employees. You just can get immediately on with integrating it inside your company. So I was really certain that things would just work out, and everybody was prepared as well. So we knew who the company was. We had met them, so that was okay. It was more like what would have helped is if to have like but that's not something that somebody can help work out for you, is to have the confidence that being out of rotation for a couple of months won't diminish your market value or something. I don't know. In hindsight, the panic was totally not
valid.
not realistic, or indeed it was not necessary. But still, again, the it was just too abrupt. I was just not prepared myself, and so I think that would have been better. I could have prepared that better, or people could have prepared me better for that.
Yeah.
And how, Dewi, how did you, let's say, find your new endeavor? How don't you find your new role now? Because I know that a lot of founders, especially who stop or want to start a company, it's hard to find it, right? How did you deal with that also from your perspective?
But I was lucky. I'm a part of the network of Started at KBC as a mentor. And actually I was introduced by Started to the university who were searching for an entrepreneur in residence. And that's how I got acquainted with the team. And we hit it off immediately. We had a meeting. It was going to be 2 hours. It lasted 5 hours and 2 extra days, and off we went. Actually, of course it's not that straightforward, but there was an immediate click, and I really saw immediate potential for the product as well. It is a hard market 2 years afterwards, because pharmaceutical and chemical companies, with all the economical problems, are not the easiest industries to sell to, but still believe in the potential of the product.
Good to hear that you found it so fast and still are really enthusiastic about it. So really good.
But I think if there would be, ex-founders listening and they would like to do new projects, please go and talk to universities. They have so many interesting scientific products sometimes on the shelf where they do not find co-founders, because of course, if you're an academic, it's very hard to understand the business value. But universities are sometimes really searching for co-founders. So definitely something to look into.
Cool.
Yeah, good suggestion.
Tip, I think, for the listeners to finish off this conversation with. Is there anything that we didn't ask that you would have loved to share before we wrap up?
I think one more thing is about the conversation with the company that you might buy or you might sell to is about your own expectations. I often have in M&A conversations found that one party sees themselves as being the bigger one, and then the other one is kind of submitted to that, and they kind of like go into the process very passively. And that's also something that we did with Flowpilots, is to go into the process actively. We knew what we wanted. We knew what we didn't want. And so when we were talking to potential buyers or interested parties, we also explained what we expected from the company that would purchase us. And that was like a conversation none of them expected. But it was a very important conversation, because by explaining what our expectations were from that company, for instance, for employees that wanted to grow and for employees that wanted to become team leader, but also in the kind of the way you worked, the culture you had, that kind of things, it was immediately also for the company on the other side clear whether it would be a fit or not. And we saved so much valuable time not continuing conversations with companies that said immediately, oh, but that's not how it works with us. Or no, that's not how we want to collaborate. Or, we wanted to purchase you, but you would be still in a separate entity. But we wanted to be integrated. And, those kind of subtleties are so important. And so a lot of valuable time was was gained at that point. And also the honesty at that was also very much appreciated by the other parties, because they did not purchase something that then afterwards would be difficult to manage, or where you would have like a lot of people leaving the company because in the end, the culture fit was not there. So yes, that's an important
Such a valid point, I guess, because often, like after an acquisition, you see that people leaving, or like in the end, it wasn't it's not never really successful. But if you do it like so customized,
also strengthens your negotiation position, right? Because they also have to sell them to you, right? So I think it's also better for, let's say, the ultimate outcome. So it's a good suggestion, really good suggestion what you do, Dewi. Thanks for that.
Yes. So, and I think that was really also one of the parts that contributed to the success, and also the fact that 100% of the people that left, that went to ACI IT Solutions was stayed.
Yep, still there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Thank you for sharing all the valuable lessons over a time period of 12 years. And still not done with entrepreneurship. You're like diving right back in. So
yes.
Thank you for your time, for showing up today on the podcast, and
with pleasure.
Your lessons. If founders listen to the podcast want to get connected,
just on LinkedIn.
Yes, LinkedIn.
Yep.
Just DM and you respond.
Yes, absolutely.
Perfect.
Thanks a lot, Dewi. Great to meet you and great to hear your story.
Thank you. Thank you for inviting me.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye. Bye.
Thank you, Dewi. We're closing it off. And then now...
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of The Big Exit Show. We hope you enjoyed today. If so, please subscribe to our show on Spotify or your favorite podcast platform. If you have feedback or suggestions for guests that you want to see on the show, please send us a message to podcast@peak.capital. Thanks again for listening, and hope you join us for the next episode.